But today we're talking dynasty trade values. Nate, let's kick it right off. You got a running back.
I do.
This guy I like.
You like him? You were kind of trashing him right when we ended the last podcast, which a couple of days now. But
Well, no, what I was saying is I think the Bengals would have been better with Joe Mixon. Yeah, and what's crazy is too the offensive numbers that the Bengals are just putting up and still losing. I mean, Joe Burrow looks absolutely amazing.
He does, and that defense is letting them down.
Oh,
But Joe Burrow looks great. Jamar Chase looks great. T. Higgins looks great. Chase Brown looks great, and that's what I want to talk about today.
yes.
Chase Brown, so far on the season, RB13 with 140 carries for 607 yards, 5 touchdowns. Also doing a lot of damage through the air. 35 catches, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns. Currently RB16 on Keep Trade Cut, RB13 on the season as of recording. In the last 3 weeks, though, Mike, is when he's really taken off. Zach Moss got injured 4 weeks ago. So in the past 3 weeks, he has had that backfield to himself. And he has met and exceeded all of our expectations. Over the last 3 weeks, RB3 in fantasy football with 62 carries, 248 yards, 1 touchdown, and 19 catches for 146 yards and 1 touchdown. We have a lot of production over the last 3 weeks. Like I said, RB3 through the last 3 weeks. So is this fool's gold? Is this something we can look forward to the rest of the season? It's something we can look forward to moving forward after this year. I mean, hey, Zach Moss is a little bit older. I did not check and see what his contract looks like after this year.
I have it here.
Mike's got it.
He is signed for the 2025 season, but the Bengals would still, even with the dead money, they'd still save about $2 million cutting him. He is going to be 28 next year, and he does have a neck injury, likely out for the rest of the season. I mean, it's a neck injury. Your neck's kind of important.
That's what ended Chris Carson's career. But let's talk about the values for Chase Brown. Is he worth it, Mike? First up, real simple here, 2026 first-round pick.
A little rich for me, but I get it.
In a vacuum, I think it's a little rich, but if you're a contending team, I think that's quite fair.
Then I'm paying it. I mean, they did trade for Khalil Herbert. So, and you know what? If they went into next year with Chase Brown and Khalil Herbert being their two guys, Khalil Herbert having a full offseason, that's actually a pretty nice little backfield there.
Yeah, especially for a team that's not going to be heavily reliant on the run.
Yeah.
They're not set up that way, especially with that defense. So,
yeah, I mean, and that 2026 first can end up being late too if you win the championship.
Yeah, hopefully.
And then you're still going to be a good team next year. So yeah, I'm fine with that then.
All right. And then how about another running back? So we're moving Chase Brown for Bucky Irving in a second. Or we're getting Chase Brown for Bucky Irving in a second.
You know, my question is, do you know what Bucky Irving's fantasy points per game is? Because he's got 11.6 fantasy points per game. I mean, Chase Brown's at 14.4. Yeah, still a little rich. I'd feel better if it was Bucky Irving in a third, but I understand the logic here. Again, if you're contending, I don't hate it.
Yep, I like this trade as well, but I do agree with what you're saying there, Mike. And then the last one here, Josh Downs, straight up for Chase Brown.
Positional scarcity. How's your team look? Hate to lose Josh Downs, but you know, people hate when I say this. You can find another Josh Downs in the draft. It's hard to find a starting running back. I'm not saying another Josh Downs, a player of his caliber that's, you know, depending on the week, he's the second, third, fourth option on the team. You never really know with the Colts right now. So I'm fine with it.
I'm good with making this move as well. While I won't repeat what you said about the draft, but I will say that it is easier to replace the wide receiver position than the running back position for sure.
It is, although waiver wires are looking a little scarce out there at the moment.
Well, because apparently all the wide receivers are hurt and all the running backs are healthy, which is we're living in an opposite world this year.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, let's talk about a quarterback. Let's talk about Denver Broncos quarterback Bo Nix.
Yeah, let's talk about
14, 37 overall. Did you put these on here for me? Because I don't think I did.
I sure did, Mike.
Nate, thank you. I've been working a lot at work lately. I don't have access to a computer at work anymore. It's very helpful for me. Thank you very much. And you know, Bo Nix, who Nate was a big fan of in the pre-draft process. And
no, Mike, I'm going to give myself some flowers here because I'm pretty proud of it. If you go back on my Twitter, you don't have to do it, Mike, but someone else might want to. I actually said that Bo Nix was going to be a first-round pick before his last college season.
But so hats off to Nate. I liked Bo Nix, not as much as you. But the thing is, the things that I didn't see him do, I didn't see him as much of a downfield passer. He's been excelling. He's been doing really, really well. It just shows good coaching can, cure players of some of their bad tendencies. And he had some on the ground as well. Check this out, Nate. Versus Atlanta, a game that I picked the Falcons to win over the Broncos, and they did not win against the Broncos. 28 of 33 for 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and then 2 carries on 5 yards. So not much there, even though I just said he had some on the ground. Hey, 0.5 is something in your rushing stat column, points wise. On the season, 234 of 357. He's completing 65.5% of his passes. Not bad for a rookie. 2,275 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 6 picks. And here it is on the ground, Nate. 63 carries, 294 yards, and 4 touchdowns, and 1 catch for 2 yards and a touchdown, too. Talk about a multifaceted quarterback. Bo Nix is your guy. What's it take to get Bo Nix? Because this is a guy who, if you're a contending team, he's going to be good for now. He's going to be good for later, too. If you roll, let's say you lost Dak, you lost Trevor Lawrence, whatever, you need a QB2. This is a guy who's going to help you now. He's going to help you later. Check out these trades. A 27 first for Bo Nix and a 25 third.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely love that. I think it's ridiculous that you can still get that.
Yeah. Me too.
I mean, this is the quarterback 7 on the season as a rookie.
Yeah. Which is
like quarterback 7 on the season.
Yeah. A 25 second and a 26 first.
Money.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And then another one, Tua and Darnell Mooney for Bo Nix. I almost called him Boa Nix. Sorry, Bo.
I think value-wise, it kind of still leans it's rather fair. But if you want to move away from Tua and his injury history,
yeah,
it's a great trade to make.
I agree. Do you want to talk about Tua's teammate?
Next up, we got Jaylen Waddle, currently wide receiver 26 on Keep Trade Cut, Mike. Wide receiver 26. Jaylen Waddle has fallen outside of the top 25 wide receivers in Dynasty. I honestly can't believe that.
Here we are.
But here we are. I haven't ranked my top 25 anytime recently. I will be doing that on the YouTube channel. Plenty this offseason. I do one of those just about every month. But I can't see Waddle not making it into the top 25. His production so far in his short career has been too good to not be in the top 25. So I think this is a great value right here. So far in the season, it's been disappointing. 33 catches, 404 yards, 1 touchdown. Good for wide receiver 60 on the season. Obviously, Tua being out for a period of that time definitely hurt his production as it did Tyreek Hill's. But we haven't really seen it come back yet. So people are pretty down on Waddle. How accessible is Waddle? It's certainly the most accessible he's ever been since his rookie season. So, Mike, if I given you this trade 4 months ago, you would have laughed at me. Ladd McConkey for Waddle and a second-round pick.
This is where we are.
What are you doing here?
A part of me still wants to lean the Waddle side. We know what he can do, and you're getting a pick on top of it. But I understand the trade, and as of right now, I think it's a fair value.
I think it's a fair value right now. I think once we get to the offseason, this is easily a Waddle and a second-round pick side. So if you're a rebuilding team already looking next year, I know Ladd McConkey's a little bit younger than Waddle, but I doubt he's even that much younger than Waddle because Waddle came into the league, I think, relatively young. So I lean Ladd right now if you need points, but if you're looking towards next year, I like the Waddle and a second-round pick.
I'm going to check Ladd McConkey's age right now.
All right. I didn't honestly see too many people move a first-round pick for Jaylen Waddle, but I did see a couple trades where they were able to move 2 seconds, 2 seconds and a third, something like that, 2 seconds and a throw-in player. That is pretty accessible for a wide receiver like Jaylen Waddle, who has not only gotten a ton of volume throughout his career, but has also been very efficient with it. And then the other trade here, Mike, this one's a pretty fun one. Definitely 2 teams headed in 2 different directions. We got A.J. Brown and Jameson Williams on one side for Rashee Rice and Jaylen Waddle on the other.
Yeah, I want the A.J. Brown side because it has A.J. Brown in it. And not just because I'm an Eagles fan, but we got a perennial top 10 wide receiver, most of the time top 5. And Jameson Williams has been playing some good ball too, racking up some fantasy points. And you got a guy who tore his ACL and a guy who's been underperforming. By the way, Jaylen Waddle, happy birthday in 5 days from now, according to Pro Football Reference. So when he hits his birthday, him and Lab and Conky will be almost exactly 3 years apart.
All right. Not
So,
too bad.
Yeah. But I want that AJ Brown side for sure.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that's a good call. I like the Rashee Rice and Waddle side, especially because there hasn't really been a lot of people to fill Rashee Rice's space so far. Xavier Worthy did have a better game this week. I think the best game of his career so far, usage-wise. So we'll see if that changes. But long-term, I like the Rice Waddle side. Still not super sold on Jameson Williams just from a weekly consistency outlook, which is very important to me. So, but I can see either side. AJ Brown's just that good.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, you could probably trade Rashee Rice and Waddle to get just AJ Brown. So getting Jameson Williams on top of it is probably a nice little cherry on top.
The ultimate throw-in.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Mike, tell us about your favorite running back who Zach, of course, doesn't like at all.
I put this on here for Zach to shut him up, which doesn't happen. So I just put it on here for Zach. Let's talk about New York Giants running back Tyrone Tracy, running back 19. Keep trade cut, 70 overall. On the season, 107 carries, 545 yards, and 3 touchdowns, 18 receptions for 117 yards. He's a good player on a bad team. It's exactly what he is. And what's his long-term outlook? Devin Singletary is going to be a free agent, maybe another year as a starter because the Giants are going to have to invest at the quarterback position. They really need another wide receiver outside of Malik Neighbors. We like Wan'Dale Robinson. Jalen Hyatt had an opportunity this year. He's not going to do anything with it. They need another piece there. It's not going to be Darius Slayton long-term. So I don't think running back should be a priority for them. But then again, they did draft Saquon Barkley when they really needed a quarterback too. So, hey, the Giants going to giant. I don't know. 3 games over 100 yards rushing this year, Nate. And aside from that, only 2 of his other games had over 50 yards rushing. So he's either really good or he's, as the youths like to say, mid. Is that what they say?
That is what they say.
Yeah. So there you go, Zach. There's some Tyrone Tracy for you because I know he watches all the videos. What does it cost to get Tyrone Tracy or trade him away, however you want to do it? This one was insane. I know I don't like to put long trades on here, but when I saw this, I actually refreshed my browser to make sure that it was correct. Here you go. Grab a pencil, everybody. Deontay Johnson, Javonte Williams, a 25-second and a 26-second for Tyrone Tracy. What the heck?
So basically 2 seconds for Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah, but I think Deontay Johnson's going to have a better season next year. Javonte Williams probably going to move on. I don't like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the trade package is much more valuable than Tyrone Tracy, just because. Sorry, Zach, I don't believe in long-term longevity of day 3 running backs. That's just my motto there. But I do agree, Mike. I think that Tyrone Tracy will be a very relevant fantasy asset next year. So I do think next year he'll still continue to produce.
A 26 first for Tyrone Tracy.
Too much for me.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Well, what if you're contending? I'm looking elsewhere.
Go give me Chase Brown.
Yeah, for that 26 first, if I could get Chase Brown, even if I have to throw in a third on top of that to get Chase Brown and a 4th, I'm doing that.
We don't hate players.
We hate values. Xavier Legette and a 26-second for Tyrone Tracy. I want the Xavier Legette side.
Yep.
Contending, not contending. I'll look elsewhere.
All right. So what would you pay for Tyrone Tracy, Mike?
I would feel comfortable at the most if it was a projected late second and I was contending and he was the only running back that was available to me. That's what I would feel comfortable paying for him.
You're never going to get that. So
right.
I think for me, if it's like a mid-second, a 3rd round pick or a throw-in player, I'd be fine with that. 2 seconds is definitely the ceiling for what I'd be willing to pay. I'd have to get some kickbacks as well.
No first for me.
No first for me.
No.
No. All right, Mike. Well, let's get to this next player.
Best position in fantasy football.
Dalton Kincaid, tight end for the Buffalo Bills. Tight end 7 on keep trade cut. But currently on the season, the tight end 16, 34 catches, 356 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is 2nd on the team in targets behind Khalil Shakir. He does play 60% of his snaps in the slot. So he's out there. He's getting opportunities. But the Buffalo Bills, as I talked about this offseason, are not the passing team that they were for the last couple of years. They are a run-heavy team now. James Cook had 2 touchdowns this past week. James Cook has been a big benefactor of that. Ray Davis even getting some good run. Dalton Kincaid, season high, 52 yards against Tennessee in week 7. Doesn't have a 100-yard game to his name in his short career. What's going on with Dalton Kincaid? Can we trust him? Is he seriously a top 7, top 8 tight end in Dynasty? Is he higher than that? Is he lower than that? I don't know. Well, people are starting to bail on Dalton Kincaid because looking at these prices, if you want to buy back in or double down, you have the opportunity to right this second. One trade I want to bring up here, the first one, David Njoku and Cortland Sutton for Dalton Kincaid.
No, sir. Dalton Kincaid is the tight end 16 on the season. He's averaging 8.2 fantasy points per game. Njoku's tight end 14, averaging 12.4 fantasy points per game, and that is with him missing some time, I believe. Yep. Cortland Sutton, wide receiver 15 on the season and averaging 12.3 fantasy points per game. That is a lot of fantasy points per game to throw away at 2 positions when we're in the point of the season where depth is one of the most important things that you could have for a guy who's been inconsistent that we can't trust, just was out. Now he's on a bye week. I'm not making this trade, and I like Dalton Kincaid. Sorry. Miss me with that, as Nate says.
No, bring the heat, Mike. Now, I think it's important at this point of the season, when we start to break off, when we look at both these trades from 2 different sides, we look at it from the contender side like you just did. Does it change your mind at all if you're a rebuilding team?
And I'm trying to get Dalton Kincaid?
Yeah.
I still feel like I overpaid.
Okay.
You know,
I don't necessarily disagree.
If it was Njoku straight up and a different player quantified as the throw-in player, because for some reason people just hate Cortland Sutton, then I feel more comfortable with it. But Cortland Sutton's a really good football player, both on the NFL field and for fantasy, despite whatever quarterback the Denver Broncos have. I don't like moving off of productive players that easily.
Yeah. All right. That's a great answer, Mike. I like it.
Thank you.
How about getting younger and trading Travis Kelce straight up for Dalton Kincaid?
You know, my question is, I wonder what Travis Kelce is going to do after this year. I
believe the most recent thing that he said about his future is that he wants to play like another 2 or 3 years. And then he'll be done.
That works. With the way things are right now, it should be Travis Kelce for Dalton Kincaid and right. I mean, it's not a good straight up trade.
I don't know. You know, when you're getting younger by 10 years or so. I mean, though I will say Dalton Kincaid, I believe, was a 5th-year senior coming in to the NFL draft. So I believe he's already 25.
Yeah. I don't know. I get it. If you're depending on team dependency, I just don't love it.
All right. And then the last one here, Mike, I got Chuba Hubbard straight up for Dalton Kincaid.
You know, this one a couple days ago would have had a different answer, I think. I would have said, no way. Chuba Hubbard's so good. He signed a contract extension. Now Jonathan Brooks is making his NFL debut this weekend. So I'm just really curious to see how that goes. I don't know. In crossing positions is tough.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was actually a pretty decent answer because it leads you to the point that if you're looking to move for Chuba Hubbard, I don't know if I would do it right now. I kind of want to see how it plays out with Jonathan Brooks there, even though they got the contract extension. I don't know what's going on in Carolina, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows what's going on in Carolina, to be honest with you. Let's talk about a guy. I really don't know what to do here. I've had some people ask me about him. This New Orleans Saints wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling. It's 126. Wide receiver 126 on Keep True Cut, 293 overall. You had to dig to find him, Nate.
Yeah, did.
Against Cleveland, 2 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown. His last 2 games, though, 5 grabs, 196 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's a really good option for Derek Carr with Olave and Shaheed out. Is he like a good wide receiver 3 flex fill-in for the rest of the season? It's possible. I mean, there's worse things out there you could trade for or try to get off the waiver wire right now. But what does it cost, Nate? What about Chigoziem Okonkwo and a 25 fourth? Did I say it right?
I believe so. It's better than anything I would have said.
Let's call him Chig. It's easier.
Chig
and a 25 fourth.
No, give me a Chig in the 25 fourth.
Yeah, I like Chig.
And I don't even like Chig that much, but
I like him.
I'll take 2 things over 1.
Yeah. In a super flex league, Mac Jones straight up.
No, I'll probably keep Mac Jones because he's probably starting the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep Mac Jones. I don't do as much dumpster diving after like these guys. Nah.
Multiple times I saw him go for 25 fourth.
I can accept that
Yeah.
if that's what you want. All right, the next guy I got is Najee Harris,
Okay.
the consistent Najee Harris, despite all the hate he gets. Currently RB26 on keep trade cut, despite running for 708 yards, 3 touchdowns on 4 yards per attempt. He's got 21 catches for 182 yards on the season, and he's RB22. RB22 Najee Harris with only 3 touchdowns. If you told me that Najee Harris only had 3 touchdowns through 10 weeks of NFL football, I would assume he was doing a lot worse than RB22. So he's on track for his 4th straight season with 1,000 yards on the ground, which this is his 4th season in the NFL. So he's a guy that's going to get you 1,000 yards every year. He doesn't necessarily have the upside of guys like Barkley and Derrick Henry and those guys, but I think that Najee Harris is one of the most consistent RB2s, RB3s that you could ask for. And he's continuing to do that. His rookie contract was not optioned, which I think was a mistake. Pittsburgh Steelers.
I agree.
So he's a free agent after the season. I would not be surprised at all, though, if they just re-signed him, kept him there for a couple more years, because he fits what they're looking for. He fits what they want. He fits that old Pittsburgh Steelers traditional running back who can punch you in the mouth and get down near the goal line and make the touchdown. He fits with that team. I would not be surprised if they extended him after this offseason. Now, some costs for Najee Harris. Jordan Addison, straight up right now. I am happy to make that trade if you need the running back. Jordan Addison did just have a touchdown this week, so he came back a little bit, but has had a very up and down season so far this year.
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
By the way, Najee Harris never missed a game in his career.
He's consistent.
Yeah.
I love Najee Harris. He constantly gets crapped on, but he's one of the easiest players to pick every single year because he's productive. A second and a third round pick for Najee Harris.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Same. And then here's an interesting one. I want to have a little discussion about this. Who do you want between these two running backs about the same age? Najee Harris, Ramondre Stevenson.
Right now, I want Ramondre Stevenson. We know where he's going to be next year, and we know what the situation is. And I do think he has a slightly higher ceiling.
Because of the pass catching?
Yeah, I think his ceiling is higher, but Najee has a safer floor.
I agree, because sometimes, especially with the Patriots offense, Stevenson can kind of get wiped out of a game. With those points you made, especially with the receiving work, we always love receiving work for running backs. And Mike, what's really interesting, I was looking at Najee Harris today, actually, and I'm going to pull it up here. But obviously, Najee Harris doing a little bit of work through the air this year. But do you remember that Najee Harris's rookie year in 2021, he caught 76 passes. 76 passes on 96 targets.
That's pretty insane.
He can catch the ball, except unfortunately Jaylen Warren's there now and he kicks a lot of his receptions up. So for that reason, I also agree. I will lean Ramondre Stevenson, but whatever you can get a third or whatever on top, I'll take that side.
Let's talk about a guy who has been.
Let's keep dumpster diving. Keep dumpster diving, Mike.
That, you know what? The reason I put these guys on here is this is the point in the season where you have to do stuff like this. And sometimes in order to win a championship, you have to look to unlikely sources, such as Tennessee Titans wide receiver Nick Westbrook. Is it Akeem? He's a wide receiver 107 on keep trade cut, 250 overall. Versus the Vikings, 2 catches, 117 yards, and 1 touchdown. Will Levis showing out. And in the last 3 games, Nate, 10 receptions, 198 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He did have a stretch of 4 straight games with a touchdown as well. The week prior to this game, did not have a touchdown, so that broke the streak there.
Also has the longest touchdown of the season now, 98 yards.
See. But what does it cost to get this dumpster diving player, as Nate likes to say? Mike Williams, straight up.
Oh, no. Give me Mike Williams, man. I love Mike Williams.
Yeah, I am starting Mike Williams in the league this week.
I started him this past week. I don't think it went very well for me, though.
No, it didn't. 25 fourth for Will Dissly and Nick Westbrook Akeem.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with 4th round picks. You go after whoever you want. I'm usually fine with that.
Yeah, and looks like somebody was a Titans fan because they sent a 20. This must be Derek. A 25 second for Tony Pollard and Westbrook Akeem.
I don't hate that if you're a contending team because Pollard's. You can put him in your lineup right now. He's doing pretty well.
I don't like it either.
But I don't like it any other. I don't love it overall.
Yeah, I mean, these like the 25 fourth one is fine, even if it was 25 fourth just for Nick, I'd be fine with
I'm
that too.
probably just getting a better player than either one of those guys in the second round this year.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't like that one as much.
Tony Pollard was a good player, and he's playing well this year. But I think moving forward, it's just going to decline. We don't spend too much time on him because he honestly hasn't done too much. It's been a little disappointing. Michael Pittman Jr. With the Indianapolis Colts, currently wide receiver 42. Mike, I don't know if you updated this to 100 overall. When I put it on the sheet originally, it was 101 overall. So he has fallen outside of the top 100 players, which is very surprising to me.
That has to be for the first time in his career, I would assume.
I would assume so as well, except for maybe beginning his rookie season, he was injured for the first 6 games of his rookie season, so maybe he fell out during that time.
Okay.
But since then, he's definitely been sitting there within a top 100 for the last 4 years. So is this the time to pounce? Wide receiver 51 on the season, Mike. 35 catches, 412 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Throw some trades out here. Brian Robinson for Michael Pittman Jr. in a 3rd-round pick.
Did you put this one on here to specifically target me?
I sure did.
So you know I love Brian Robinson. I even love leaving him on my bench when he scores over 14 points. Positional scarcity. I lean Brian Robinson. I think the trade is very fair at this moment, though.
I agree. I think, positional. What does your team need if you're more of a rebuilding team? I still like Michael Pittman Jr. long term. Next trade we got here is a either or. Cole Kmet or David Njoku. I saw both those guys go straight up for Michael Pittman. So basically, hey, if you have an extra tight end, do you want to go grab Michael Pittman right now? I'm happy with either one of these guys moving them for Michael Pittman Jr. if you have him as an extra tight end.
Yeah, he did sign an extension, so he is under contract with the Colts through 2026 when he'll be 29 years old. But you know what? Even so, we've seen guys like DeAndre Hopkins. They play into their 30s here, so I'm not too worried about that.
Michael Pittman Jr. sure ain't no DeAndre Hopkins.
That's true. I was just saying, but he is under contract for a few more years there in Indy.
All right, and then how about Matthew Stafford?
I'm okay with that. Matthew Stafford is an aging guy, still playing pretty well. Doesn't get sacked
big numbers this past week.
Yeah, doesn't get sacked a lot either, which he did get sacked a lot when he was in Detroit. Love how the Stafford and Goff trade just worked out for everybody. Like, that very rarely happens. But yeah, I'm okay with that trade.
All right, I don't know exactly where I land on Michael Pittman Jr. overall because I love me some Josh Downs. I don't necessarily love the quarterback situation there or the wide receiver situation there because, hey, Adonai Mitchell has even looked good in a little bit of time he's got. They have 4 wide receivers that are getting playing time right now. Is a lot of mouths to feed, and I don't know if Anthony Richardson can feed all of them. So I'm happy to move off of Michael Pittman Jr. When I can for a good deal. If I can get, I don't know if you can get 2 seconds anymore, but if you can get that, I'd be pretty happy with that. But also, if I can get him for a 2nd-round pick, I'd be more than happy to pick him up for a 2nd-round pick.
Let's talk about a guy who could be the new wide receiver 1 in Seattle.
Hopefully.
Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He's wide receiver 15 on Keep Trade Cut, 40 overall. Like I said previously, seemingly has made himself the wide receiver 1 out there. Versus San Francisco, 10 catches, 110 yards and no touchdowns. That's still a really good game. And in the last 2 games, Nate, 17 catches, 290 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he was really taking advantage of the time DK Metcalf is off. Now he's got that rapport with Geno Smith. He's going to build on that.
Mm-hmm.
What does it cost to get him? Because a guy like this, it's not going to be cheap. Justin Jefferson for JSN, a 25 first, a 26 first, and a 3rd in 26 as well. That is a lot.
That is a lot. But it's also Justin Jefferson.
I know, but that's a lot.
I always say that anytime you get to the evaluation of 3 first-round picks, which you have here, because JSN certainly is worth a first-round pick on his own, if not more. I think value-wise, it leans with the trade package. I think this, really have to look at your team and figure out, do you need the stud that is Justin Jefferson as your cornerstone piece? Because as much as I love JSN, wide receiver 15 right now on Keep Trade Cut, I think that's probably around where he stays, maybe a little bit higher. Yeah. I don't know if he's that kind of game breaker that his skill set gets him into like that top 5, even top 10. It's pretty busy up there. So there's going to be that gap still between Justin Jefferson and JSN, but when you get 2 first-round picks on top of it plus a third, I mean, I'm more than happy to take that if that's what's best for my team.
Would you like to know what the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL are right now? Give you
List them off for me.
1 through 10, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson at 3, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Zay Flowers, Darnell Mooney, wide receiver 9, and then JSN coming in at wide receiver 10. So,
well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but there is a drop-off from Justin Jefferson to JSN, and that is almost 4 fantasy points per game. So, you got to think about it. Right now, you're paying all those first-round picks to get 4 fantasy points a game. How could you get those 4 fantasy points a game cheaper if that's what you think you really need to get ahead? And I understand, but
it all depends on what you do with those picks, right?
Yeah, that is true. The next one, a 25 first and a 25 second. Feel a little bit better about this trade to get JSN.
Yeah, I think this is a very fair value for him. And I would be happy to make it because I think this is, I mean, you might be paying 2 firsts for JSN by the end of the season if he keeps this up.
It's true. George Pickens for JSN in a 26 second.
Yeah, I like JSN over George Pickens straight up. So I'll take the second on top. Absolutely.